Hey everybody, welcome to this week's edition of This Woman Can. I am your host, career strategist Janice Sutherland. Now, a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of being a guest on the Rutledge Perspective podcast. And there was one aspect that we touched on, and let me know, we talked a lot when you listen to the show. And that was how we can sometimes associate our self-worth with our careers or our title. Now, it's not difficult to see why, because we work so hard to get the job society views as prestigious, or our loved ones we're proud to identify with. And I know I was no exception. To say that I worked for such an employer or I had the job, made me really proud. And when I accepted the dream position as the first female CEO for a multinational media company, my heart was bursting. Yeah, absolutely bursting out at my chest. I felt like I'd earned the right to let those words CEO slip off my tongue to show the world that I did it. I made it, I did it. But after a couple of years in the role, I realised that I was no longer in love with it, no longer in love with the job, which then results in a life-changing moment. While I felt burnt out and lacked the enthusiasm to work for them, I didn't listen to my body, and I decided to hold on to that position, mainly because I loved how I felt accepted by others when I mentioned my position in conversation. I'm CEO. It was an addiction. I felt like my identity was closely tied to this job, and if I'd lose it, then maybe I'd be a nobody, and I'd have no proof of all my hard work, everything I'd done to get to this position. However, as I said, being in that position wasn't making me happy. And after some really deep introspection, a lot uncomfortable conversations, I eventually decided to leave. And I'm not going to lie to you, I felt a huge sigh of relief come off my shoulders. While one part of me wanted to hold on to something that wasn't making me happy for prideful reasons, as I said, that weight was lifted off my shoulders because I was finally following my truth, following what I believed in. For most women, taking this step would scare the ish out of them, I get it. Even more so if they're let go from a job without realising it. They may feel that it means they're incompetent and their self-worth can take a nosedive into the pools of despair. And yes, I'm also talking from experience. But the one thing I realise is that my self-worth isn't defined by a nice sounding job. It's defined by my values, my truth, and what happens outside the 9 to 5, the 8 to 4. Yes, sometimes I miss the perks that came with the role, but deep down, I know that my career doesn't define my identity because the only approval I need is my own. Now, if you can relate to any of the things I'm saying, let me share with you 5 reasons why you really shouldn't define yourself by your career or your job, because honestly, you are worth far more than a paycheck or a job title. 1, having a well-known job isn't your only success measure. Working for a known company, does look good on your resume, but that shouldn't be your only measure of success. The true measure of success, that real success measure, derives from the ability to do something that you truly love, to be able to care for others, to overcome your greatest fears, or to find happiness. One person's measure of success could look completely different than someone else's, and that's really okay, that's fine. And ultimately, you should be aiming to be yourself and not a replica of what you believe to be considered successful, just because it's somebody else's journey. Secondly, your truths and values are the only things that you should be defined by. Wouldn't it be great to not be judged based on your profession? Think of the first things we ask when we meet someone new. We want to know their name, and we also want to know what they do for a living. Why? Isn't there another way to define a person to meet an individual you met? Your identity should be defined by what you love, what you dream of, what you value, and who you cherish. Think about it. Your true friends, your real true friends and family don't care what kind of job you have or how much you make. All they care about, or all they should care about, is your happiness. Number 3, most jobs are a temporary state and can change at any moment. Speaking from experience again, if there's one thing we should have learned over the past 2 years, is that life is filled with uncertainty. Most of us believe we have complete control. We're in charge. We've got it all under control of our circumstances, but we really know that to be untrue. Today, you may identify yourself as that hard-working professional, and I did, but 4 years from now, you may want to be a yoga teacher, giving lessons for a living, working in your garden. You just never know what kind of experiences you may go through and how they'll change your life, how they'll change you. Nothing in life is permanent, and there are more things that can make an impact in your life than your career. 4, this is something you do and not something you are. Remember that. Something you do, not something you are. Whether you work as an operator in a call centre or as a director for a conglomerate, these are things you do. That's what you do. They don't define you as a person. There are plenty of ways to identify yourself, especially if you're not in love with what you're doing, your career, your job. Sister, mother, wife, lover of puppies, kittens, blogger. At the end of the day, you should be known for the things that you love to do and be, not for the type of positions you've held. Lastly, other people won't remember you by the job you have, but they will remember you by how you made them feel. How you decide to treat others and express yourself says far more about you than the job ever will, your job ever will. And when other people talk or think about you, the thought of what you do might come up, but actually normally it's your personality and your character that resonates with them more. So, after hearing this or watching this, take a few moments to just reflect on how has your job encroached on your personal identity, and what one action can you take to change it? I'm going to give you homework here. For example, is your role the biggest part of your identity? Is it the first thing you think of when you want to introduce yourself or understand yourself? Do you find yourself sacrificing relationships for work, putting people on the back burner? Do you have trouble imagining being happy if you were to lose your job or your career? Can you even see a future beyond what you're doing now? Whilst you may not be in a position to make an immediate change, being cognizant of how attached you are to your role, your title, your career will actually make it easier for you when you have to make that important transition at some point in your life. And as a career strategist, that's what I can help you do. If you want to talk to somebody about how do you detach yourself from your role, how do you prepare yourself that next step in your career, how do you pivot into something totally new, I'm your woman. So contact me, email me info@janicesutherland.com, or visit my website janicesutherland.com to see how I can help you in your career journey. And always remember, if I can, you can, this woman can. Take care until next time.